Beloved, there is a war happening around us. We walk among people, our loved ones, our friends, and we see them day by day, but not all of them walk in the light. You must be vigilant. You must be aware of the signs, for there is a dark force that seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. Unexplained anger and hostility are among the clearest indicators that something demonic is at work within a person. When you observe a loved one or close friend day after day consumed by an irrational fury, it is not merely a reflection of their personality or stress. There is a deeper cause, a force beyond their control that has taken hold of their spirit. This is not a fleeting moment of frustration or a temporary loss of patience. It is a persistent, overwhelming force that seems to surge within them with no clear reason or justification. One moment they are calm and the next they erupt in rage. This is the hallmark of demonic oppression. It is not just anger, it is a storm that breaks forth without warning, an unnatural force that seems to control them, dictating their responses and overriding their better judgment. What is so troubling about this demonic influence is that it does not have a legitimate foundation. It lacks a cause that makes sense. Unlike regular anger, which may be triggered by an event, a dispute, or some injustice, demonic anger rises from within, unprovoked. It does not follow the usual patterns of human emotion. A person under such an influence might lash out over small things, over imagined slights, or trivial misunderstandings. A comment, a look, or a simple disagreement may trigger a disproportionate explosion of anger. The reaction feels out of place, excessive, and irrational. It is as if the person is no longer in control of their emotions but is being driven by a hidden, malevolent force, one that pushes them toward hostility and division. In these moments, the true nature of the demonic work becomes evident. It is a subtle yet powerful presence that twists the mind and corrupts the heart. Demonic anger is not just about the outbursts themselves, but the aftermath they leave behind. When someone is overtaken by such rage, they often isolate themselves or push others away. Relationships become strained. They may withdraw from family members, friends, and even the most supportive of their circle, because they feel ashamed or fearful of their own behavior. This isolation only deepens the spiritual wound. The demon works in silence, using that anger to create distance, confusion, and pain between loved ones. The more isolated the person becomes, the more difficult it is for them to see the truth, that they are not acting in their own strength, but are being controlled by a power that seeks to tear apart everything they hold dear. In the silence of this isolation, the demonic force grows stronger, feeding on the resentment and bitterness that have taken root in their heart. What is even more insidious about demonic anger is that it often results in division and strife in relationships. People under such influence will sow discord where there once was peace. They will stir up arguments and misunderstandings, deliberately causing tension in families, workplaces, or friendships. They are often unaware that their actions are being guided by something beyond their own will. They may justify their behavior by claiming they were provoked or misunderstood, but deep down they know there is an element of rage that is beyond reason. This leads to cycles of conflict, where the person feels trapped in a constant state of hostility and strife, unable to break free from the grip of the spirit of anger. It is a demonic force that works to destroy relationships, one angry outburst at a time, until nothing but wreckage remains. Finally, it is important to recognize that this spirit of anger is not something that can be easily explained away or dismissed. It is not merely an unfortunate personality trait or a matter of a bad day. The demon that stirs such hostility seeks to remain hidden, often masquerading as a personality flaw or an emotional condition. However, once we understand that these eruptions of rage are not from the individual but are being influenced by a greater power, we can begin to see the truth more clearly. The person in question needs help, not judgment. They need healing, not condemnation. The demonic forces that torment them can only be driven out through the power of prayer, spiritual intervention, and support from those who love them. In recognizing the presence of this destructive force, we can offer them a way out, a path to freedom, peace, and restoration. Constant negativity and despair, a sign of demonic influence. Constant negativity and despair are subtle yet powerful tools used by demonic forces to infiltrate a person's life. When a person speaks continuously from a place of hopelessness and despair, it is often a sign that something far darker is at work within them. Their words carry an air of finality and desolation, casting a shadow over every conversation and interaction. It is not just occasional moments of sadness or doubt that we are talking about. It is a pervasive attitude that colors every aspect of their life, from their outlook on the future to their view of the present moment. It is as though the person has been consumed by a spirit of negativity that robs them of their ability to see any possibility of hope, peace, or joy. One of the most disturbing signs of this demonic influence is that the negativity and despair are not always linked to present circumstances. Often the person's words reveal an underlying belief that nothing will ever improve no matter what happens. Even when there is no logical reason for such hopelessness, they will speak as if their situation is permanently bleak. "It's always going to be this way," they might say, or "nothing will ever change." These words are not born of reason but are spoken out of a heart that has been closed to the possibility of positive change. Demons thrive in the darkness of hopelessness, feeding off the belief that there is no way out, no way forward. The more the person speaks these words of death, the more they begin to solidify the stronghold of despair within their heart. The effect of this constant negativity on the people around them can be devastating. When a person is caught in the grip of such despair, they often begin to bring down everyone they interact with. Their words are like heavy chains, pulling others into their world of hopelessness. It becomes nearly impossible to engage with them without feeling drained or discouraged, as though the very air around them is thick with negativity. No matter how much others try to encourage them, offer support, or bring light into their lives, the person's heart remains closed off. They cannot or will not receive anything that might bring them joy or peace, because their soul is imprisoned by the spirit of negativity. This kind of demonic influence not only harms the individual but also disrupts the lives of those who care about them, creating a cycle of despair that spreads like a poison through relationships. It is not just what the person says but the underlying energy behind their words. The spirit of negativity is not merely an emotional state, it is a force that seeks to manipulate the thoughts, attitudes, and actions of the person it inhabits. It encourages them to focus only on what is wrong, on what has failed, and on what can never be. These thoughts are relentlessly repeated until they become the person's dominant reality. The more the person gives voice to these dark thoughts, the more power the demonic force has over them. It is as if the person has become a vessel for this negativity, unable to break free from its suffocating influence. The demon's primary goal is to drown the person in hopelessness, to keep them from seeing the light of possibility, and to convince them that nothing will ever be better. This constant despair also leads to a closing off of the heart. The more negativity and hopelessness a person speaks, the more they shut themselves off from anything that might bring them life. They grow resistant to the encouragement of others, rejecting any form of optimism or hope. The light of love, kindness, or faith cannot penetrate the walls they have built around their heart. It is as though they have become spiritually blind, unable to see beyond their current pain or circumstance. The more entrenched they become in this mindset, the more difficult it is for them to hear or accept any truth that contradicts the lies they have embraced. They begin to resist even the smallest gestures of kindness, pushing away the very things that could offer them healing, growth, and restoration. What makes this demonic influence particularly dangerous is that it leads the person into spiritual blindness. As the negativity takes root in their heart, they begin to see the world through a lens of darkness. Everything becomes tainted by their sorrow. Even the blessings in their life are viewed with suspicion or rejection. They might have a loving family, a job, or a roof over their head, yet all they can focus on is what is lacking, what has gone wrong, or what they believe they will never achieve. This spiritual blindness keeps them from recognizing the good that still exists, from perceiving the potential for healing, and from embracing the truth that change is possible. In their despair, they fail to see the hand of God reaching out to pull them from the mire of negativity and into a place of peace. The worst consequence of constant negativity and despair is that it opens the door for a stronger demonic oppression to take hold. As the person continues to embrace the darkness of their thoughts and words, they reinforce the stronghold that the demon has in their life. It becomes harder for them to break free from this grip, and the despair deepens. They may begin to believe that there is no way out, that they are destined to live a life of sorrow and emptiness forever. This belief is a lie that keeps them trapped in spiritual darkness. The key to breaking free from this demonic influence lies in recognizing that these feelings and thoughts are not from God. They are not a reflection of who the person truly is, but rather the result of spiritual oppression. With the power of prayer, deliverance, and the love of those who surround them, they can begin to lift the veil of despair that has clouded their mind. It is crucial to speak words of life, words of encouragement, and words of truth into their lives. As they hear the promises of hope and healing, the darkness begins to recede and the light of truth shines through. Through the power of faith, the grip of negativity and despair can be broken, and the person can be restored to a place of peace, joy, and purpose. Immoral behavior and addiction, a sign of demonic oppression. Immoral behavior and addiction are two of the most insidious and destructive forces that can take hold of a person's life. When an individual repeatedly engages in destructive habits such as drug abuse, alcohol consumption, or immoral actions, and they find themselves unable to break free from the cycle, it often points to something deeper at work, a demonic force that has taken hold of their will and is driving them toward self-destruction. These forces operate subtly, manipulating the person's desires and impulses until they become bound in chains, unable to break free. The individual may try to quit or change, but the temptation and urge to indulge in these behaviors are often overwhelming, as though something dark is urging them on, pushing them into the abyss of their own addiction. Addiction, in its most destructive form, is not merely a lack of self-control or a momentary lapse in judgment. It is a spiritual bondage that can have a profound grip on both the body and the soul. Demons often exploit a person's vulnerabilities, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, to lure them into a pattern of compulsive behavior. The person may initially indulge in the activity to alleviate pain, numb emotional wounds, or escape reality, but over time the addiction becomes a vicious cycle. The more they indulge, the more their body and mind become enslaved to the substance or behavior. What once was a temporary escape now becomes a prison of the soul, a place where the person feels trapped, hopeless, and unable to escape. The cycle continues, reinforcing the lie that freedom is impossible and leading the person deeper into darkness. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of addiction is that it not only destroys the individual, but it also wreaks havoc on their relationships. Family members, friends, and loved ones often become collateral damage in the wake of the person's destructive habits. The addict may lie, manipulate, and push others away, unwilling or unable to see the harm they are causing. The addiction becomes their master, and those around them become casualties in the battle for their soul. Loved ones may offer support, encouragement, and help, but when the person is under demonic oppression, they are often blind to the love and care extended toward them. The addiction becomes a wedge that drives them further from the very people who want to see them free. Relationships are strained, broken, and sometimes even destroyed, as the individual prioritizes their destructive habits above all else. The person under the grip of addiction becomes trapped in a cycle of self-destruction. At first, there may be brief moments of clarity when they recognize the damage they are causing to themselves and others. They may even feel remorse or guilt, but the hold of addiction is too strong. The demonic forces that influence them feed on this guilt and shame, using it to keep them in bondage. They may try to escape, they may make resolutions to quit, but each time they fall back into the destructive pattern, the guilt and self-loathing grow stronger, it becomes a prison with no escape, a life defined by failure, shame, and disappointment. The addiction becomes not just a habit but a chain that binds the person's soul, keeping them from reaching their true potential and purpose. This oppression can manifest in many forms, whether through the need to consume substances, act out sexually, or engage in other forms of moral degradation. The demonic forces behind these actions don't simply want to ruin a person's health or relationships, they seek to destroy their very identity. The more the person engages in these behaviors, the more they become disconnected from their true self, from their purpose, and from their relationship with God. They are led to believe that their worth is defined by their addiction, by their inability to break free from the cycle. In doing so, the demons successfully replace the person's sense of self-worth with a destructive identity rooted in shame, guilt, and sin. The person may begin to identify with their addiction, seeing themselves as a failure, a lost cause, or someone beyond redemption. The consequences of immoral behavior and addiction go far beyond the physical and relational damage. These actions have a profound impact on the person's spiritual health. Demons often use addiction as a tool to keep a person from walking in their full purpose and calling. When someone is trapped in addiction, they are often disconnected from their spiritual life. They become numb to the voice of God, and are unable to hear the call to repentance, restoration, and freedom. Their spiritual sensitivity is dulled, and they may even come to believe that God cannot help them, that they are too far gone, or that there is no hope for them. This belief is one of the greatest lies that demons perpetuate. The enemy's ultimate goal is not just to destroy the body but to sever them from God, to sever them from the truth and the life that only Christ can provide. The road to freedom from addiction and immoral behavior is a long and difficult one, but it is not impossible. Breaking free from the grip of demonic oppression requires a powerful intervention, a transformation that comes only through the power of God. It requires a willingness to confront the darkness and acknowledge that the addiction is not just a personal struggle but a spiritual battle. The individual must come to a place of repentance and surrender, seeking deliverance from the oppressive forces that have held them captive. Deliverance is not just about breaking free from the addiction, it is about reclaiming one's identity, purpose, and relationship with God. Prayer, fasting, and spiritual support are crucial in this process.